I'm firmly of the view givers get. You get what you put in. And, I don't know how long Kathleen will be with me. I didn't expect it to be 4 years. I'm very grateful it is. Why do I think that's the case? I think it's because we treat her well, we pay her well. She's had growth in her role.
Yeah.
And she feels like she's part of something bigger than herself.
Natasha, thank you so much for coming for a visit and for sharing your story on the other podcast.
My pleasure. I'm really happy to be here.
But while I have you, I thought it would be a great opportunity to get to know you a little bit with your business and how you got started with outsourcing. And thanks again for being such an amazing client as well.
Oh, my pleasure. You get what you give, I think.
Let's talk a little bit about your business, what it does and who you serve, and then we can go into, where the turning point in you deciding I wanted to work with someone offshore.
Yeah, so Employee Matters, essentially, my view of it is we help businesses create success through their people. So I'm firmly of the view, Lynn, that your employees are your greatest asset. They're also potentially your greatest liability and should be treated as such. I have a friend who runs a business, and I can never forget her saying to me, and it's stuck in my mind. She said, Natasha, running a business would be so much fun if I didn't have any employees. And I think a lot of business owners feel that way. And I think it's rightfully so, especially if you're thinking about the Australian legislation and context around hiring. It's complex. And most businesses don't know how to do three things well: hire well, manage well, and exit or fire well. And that's why I wrote a book called From Hire to Fire and Everything in Between. And so we go to market in a couple of ways. We recruit for our clients. We work as if we were their in-house recruiter. You buy a bunch of hours. There's no success fee. Clients love it. They feel like that person, Jess, in this case, is their employee. And that's what success looks like for me, is when my team members get invited to all the Christmas parties and the other team members think they're employed by the client, not by me. That's what success looks like. The second thing we do is HR. We've got a lot of HR managers who 20 years, 30 years experience that can come in and provide that outsourced HR manager role, either for bespoke projects or on an ongoing basis, a couple of days a week. And that works really well for businesses that could never normally afford those skills. And then two other things: we do training. We teach people how to hire, manage, and exit. And fourthly, we've built a tool called Employee Metrics, which is a piece of software that assesses a business for its current levels of HR compliance, risk, and best practice.
Nice. It's a very kind of end-to-end HR service. How long have you had it?
14 years. We sold our car to start it, a brand new Kia Carnival. We sold our house to continue it.
Wow.
So we have absolutely been boots and all in. I have to say, Lynn, it's the hardest thing I have ever done. I used to think working for one of the professional consulting firms was tough, nowhere near as tough as working for this person. Because your survival is dependent on your success.
Yeah, entrepreneurship is very, very challenging. But hey, big risks, big rewards.
There are, I often say, running your own business is so challenging. I think you need three things. You need to be incredibly optimistic to know that with hard work and effort, it will work out okay in the end.
A lot of faith.
Faith. You need to be very resilient to dust yourself off, pick yourself up and do it all again. I'll never forget the first blog I wrote. This guy it was about job description, for crying out loud. And he absolutely took me to town on it. And I was ready to shrink back in and never ever put something out into the world again. But I got over that and kept going. And then the last thing I think you need is to be a little bit naive, because I think if many of us knew then what we know now, many of us were never been that brave to start.
How did you come across offshoring, outsourcing? What has been your journey like?
I'd worked virtually from 2001, so being able to be virtual wasn't a problem for me. So I thought, I'll give this a go. And I had an EA for 2 years with a different organisation, and that worked fairly well. But then we came across you, and I can't even remember where. Do you remember where?
No, I don't.
I probably Googled you, as we mostly do. And that's when we went through the process to find Kathleen. And what I loved about that was it was very thorough. I got to interview 3 people, and I got psychometrics as well. And Kathleen stood out for me. She had a banking and finance background and was a bank customer service officer by trade, but had a nice mix of the EA and the marketing. And she's been with me 4 years now. She runs my personal and my professional life. My productivity gains are through the roof. And we've grown together. Like if you talk to her about what she could do 4 years ago and what she can do now, poles apart. Like she's absolutely grown in the role. So she'll edit videos for me. She'll do my social media. She runs my inbox. I don't touch any emails until she escalates it to me. So it's worked incredibly well for me, and obviously more cost effective for me than a local resource. And we've flown her out to Australia twice. So she's come out to meet the team. She also does decks for the team. I have a fabulous team of HR professionals, but they're not any good at PowerPoint
and you don't
slides.
want to be busy doing that either.
That's not what they're paid for. You know, that our clients pay too much for that. So Kathleen comes and makes it look all pretty and makes it look good.
Yeah. Well, before working with her, did you have any reservation, any worries around like?
Oh, look, I'm firmly of the view that what doesn't get measured doesn't get done. So I think that having, visibility, having regular contact. So Kathleen and I, and actually all my direct reports, have what we call a huddle every morning, and it's 15 minutes. And we go through the same criteria. So, if it's been what are you doing on the weekend, or what did you do on the weekend? And then we talk about what did you achieve yesterday and what are you doing today? And so those flip, obviously what she was doing today should now be achievements for yesterday, but there might be other stuff that's cropped up that I don't know about that she's done for other team members. And then we go through actually up front, we go through my diary every day, Trello, what's outstanding on Trello, any tasks. For example, she'll follow up with my tasks and do my tasks for me in HubSpot. If it's just an email that needs to say, hey, just checking in, seeing how you're doing, I don't need to do that. That is not the most effective use of my time either, but it's a touch point with a prospective or a client that she's managed to keep that running on rather than waiting for me to do it, and that could take weeks.
Yeah. And it seems like straight away you were treating her like you're hiring any local staff.
She's my team member. We don't treat her any differently by virtue of the fact we brought her to Australia for our team day. She is part of the team, and the team adore her. And I just don't see it as any different. But, sorry, the one thing I would say is I think a mistake a lot of people make with outsourcing, it's outsourced out of mind. They don't onboard them well. So you have to onboard them as you would a local or your own employee. You have to include them like that. She's so bought in to our business, and she was all excited this morning because I told her I put in an application for a course overseas, and you can just see her joy, for me, which is lovely.
How were you able to gain that kind of respect and trust and care and love for each other, even though it's a professional working space?
Well, it was so funny because it was 2 years, because we started in COVID, before I actually eyeballed her physically and gave her a hug. I think the way you do it, I come back to authenticity. I always am looking for ways to compliment someone. So we have something called shout outs in our team. So anytime anyone, doesn't matter what level, has something done for them that they feel is worth noting, they shout it out to the whole team, because I'm firmly of the view success leaves clues. And if I am reinforcing, Kathleen, when you did this for me, it enabled me to do that, she's going to repeat that, and she's going to identify that as another opportunity when that comes up.
It's so good. It also reminds me of your advice from my other podcast around feedback, giving continuous feedback so they can grow and they can, they can build trust.
And it was interesting because we came to a crossroads where her role was getting big enough. Do we go all in on the EA component of it, or do we go all in on the marketing component? And I said to her, I want to know how you feel. What do you want to do? And I knew I didn't want to lose her as my EA, but that's not my job. Like, I don't want to stand in her way if her aspirations lay around the marketing side of things. And she said, I want to keep doing both, but if I had to pick, I'd pick the EA role.
I love that you're so considerate and you're really giving her that option to decide. And I think that's where she really respects and adore you, because in places like the Philippines, they're so used to working in corporations that there's some sort of hierarchy, like I'm your manager, so I can treat you in whatever way. Yeah. And I always get the feedback that they love working with Australian, a lot of Australian managers, is that we do tend to care more.
Well, she met all my kids through video, because they walk in for home from school or whatever. And then she came home to our house and had dinner with us, with the dog and, the 3 kids and husband and myself. So I think it's really important that I touched on it right at the beginning. I'm firmly of the view givers get. You get what you put in. And, I don't know how long Kathleen will be with me. I didn't expect it to be 4 years. I'm very grateful it is. Why do I think that's the case? I think it's because we treat her well, we pay her well. She's had growth in her role.
Yeah.
And she feels like she's part of something bigger than herself.
That's right. And you mentioned that when you first hired her, she was doing other things. How were you able to upskill over time? Is there a process that you take when you are trying to
Some of it is the role evolved naturally, and we said, have a go. We're all about having a go, see what you can come up with. I think she's of that generation where she Googles it and now AIs it and works it out. So I think that's a part of it. The other part was, an example would be in marketing. We work with a fabulous guy called Aman who contracts to us for marketing, and he's a real he wanted to improve her creative skills, so he wrote her a course and she did that, and now she does that. And what Aman loves about Kathleen is he's got a massive marketing brain. He'll give her the instructions once and she just gets on with it, or if she's not sure, she comes back to him and says, I don't quite understand that, can you help? And look, I think EO have been very helpful in some of the training I've got that she's benefited from, because she needs to hear that training too.
And some people worry about, outsourcing inbox or emails or trying to have them act as your voice. Like, how did you overcome that or pass on that work?
Well, I think it evolved over time, but I think you can, some of my emails, she responds as if she was me, and she's got my tone and the grammar's great and all of that. Some of it she responds, hey, it's Kathleen, Natasha's EA here. She's asked me to jump in and do X, Y, Z. And I've never, ever had anyone complain. In fact, they say, oh, we love dealing with Kathleen. She's fabulous. And they assume, and I think this is really important for some people who have some concerns, that she's an Australian-based employee. They have not clued up to the fact that she's based in the Philippines. It's funny, my father thinks it's hilarious. He's like, how do you work together?
Yeah.
Retired years ago. And I'm like, everything's on Zoom. We have a phone call. Everything's digital these days. We don't need to be sitting next to each other. In fact, I'd probably be a distraction like I am to my husband, because I talk all day.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all that. I guess maybe just the last wrap up of, overall, what do you have to say about outsourcing or offshoring or working with someone?
I just think it's got to be done. I think it makes you – I talk about leverage. I read Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. Kathleen and I at the time were sort of halfway there. That pushed us over to get the whole way there. I think you're holding yourself back as an entrepreneur, and I come across people all the time and I go, you've got to speak to Lynn. This is ridiculous. You should not be doing that. You are holding back your productivity. That is not your super skill. Outsource it, and that other great Who Not How from Dr. Ben Hardy and Dan Sutherland, he talks about the same thing. There's stuff that I am not good at. Why would I spend the hours doing that? And Kathleen books my flights, my accommodation. She runs my kids' diaries. She books, you name it, she does it. And I have no doubt, I'd have no issues with confidentiality. She's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Natasha. Another wonderful interview.
My pleasure. Thank you.